Hi guys, my name's Jay. I'm a functional medicine practitioner, and new year, I thought I'd start with some new videos, some new content. It's been a while. I've been extremely busy the last couple of years, really, starting my functional medicine practice and working with clients, day in, day out. With a wide variety of different ailments, from Lyme disease to visual snow, autoimmune, etc. And it's been an extremely beneficial learning experience. And I just wanted to share some of my findings with you guys because I think it might be relevant. So in the next few videos, what I really want to kind of do is go over some of the questions that I've had in the comment section. And really kind of delve into some of these topics. A lot of the audience out there, I know that a lot of you have visual snow, you have autoimmune, you have depersonalization, Lyme disease, etc. So I kind of wanted to talk about some of the links between some of these ailments as well. So let's get into it, right? So the first thing that I really wanted to kind of hit on is the whole area of Lyme disease. Okay, so I have had a lot of questions in the comments privately about what is Lyme disease, and specifically what is the connection between Lyme disease and visual snow. Okay, so in order to kind of answer this question, I think we should kind of start from the beginning, just to kind of recap kind of what is Lyme disease, for those of you who are kind of new to it. Just kind of give you my thoughts on it. I mean, there's a lot of information out there around Lyme disease, a lot of good information and a lot of information that I would not agree with. And I'll go into my reasons as to why. Okay, guys, so what is Lyme disease? Okay, so I want to kind of keep this at a surface level. I don't want to go too deep into it, just because I just don't think there's a need for it. Really, there's a lot of information out there on Lyme disease. And I just want to talk about some of the kind of misconceptions, as I would see them, around it. So there's a pretty big controversy around Lyme disease. I mean, you still have practitioners out there that think that it doesn't exist. And when people are symptomatic, etc., they go to certain doctors and they don't even have it in their playbook as a disease. Okay. Then probably in the last 10, 20 years, you've had more kind of Lyme specialists, LMDs, that have kind of come onto the circuit, and they very specifically treat people for Lyme disease. So what is Lyme? Lyme is a collection of things. Usually you have Borrelia, which is the main pathogen that is responsible for Lyme disease. And with that usually comes a variety of different co-infections. This can be Bartonella, Babesia, Mycoplasma, just to name a few. There are others out there as well, but let's stick with the four main ones that I would say. So usually it's these four. And when you go into the reading, and for those of you who are familiar with the terms, each of these different pathogens can cause different types of symptomology in the body. So Lyme is kind of seen as the big mimicker, right? So it's a disease that can often mimic other things. So, stuff like autism, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, cancers, etc. You can get the same type of symptomology within the remit of Lyme disease. Okay, so there was a lot of controversy. I remember in the 80s and 90s, I watched a lot of documentaries. There seemed to be a lot of conspiracy theory, or what is conspiracy theory these days? I mean, it's there's a lot of thoughts and ideas about where Lyme disease originated from. Now, if you look at the textbook, it's something that you catch from a tick in some forest or woodland, etc. And people have reported having red rashes where they've been bitten by a tick, and then they start to get symptomatic after that. they'll go to a Lyme specialist, they'll relate it back to the tick, and they'll get put on some sort of Lyme treatment. This never used to happen back in the day, you know. So doctors often are kind of scratching their heads. You know, back in the day, they didn't really understand what was happening. And I feel like, from my experience with all kind of Facebook groups and various doctors I've spoken to and patients, etc., I feel like we've now gone totally in the other direction, where as soon as you mention Lyme, there's just so much information out there, so many different treatments, and people's heads just get stuck in that space of, oh my God, I've got Lyme disease. What do I do? I need to treat these pathogens. Okay, let me go do a herbal treatment. Let's go on an antibiotic regime. Let's go do some ozone. Let's kill, because that's what we need to do, because this is something that I'm infected by. Okay. So I feel like that's what's happened, right? We've gone from doctors having no clue what Lyme was to now I feel like we are too far down the rabbit hole. And we've forgotten about, you know, the environment that actually occurs within us. So, you know, when I usually talk to my patients, and, you know, the 2-pass protocols and the healing programs that we have, I kind of use an analogy of a fish tank. So, you know, when you see a dirty fish tank and you see the fish getting ill, I don't know if they get ill, etc. But what doctors do these days is they try to drug the fish instead of kind of cleaning the fish tank. And I think that's a good analogy for Lyme disease in my experience, because I think in history, as I said, if everybody got bit by a tick, then all these people who worked in woodland areas would just be constantly talking about Lyme disease. What I like to think of Lyme disease is more immune system dysfunction, okay? Within us, we have all sorts of different organisms. I think, you know, 90% of what lives in us, the DNA is foreign. So it's other organisms, other parasites, other microorganisms that actually live in us and live off us in a symbiotic relationship. Now, if you go through your life with a healthy immune system, okay, and you keep the ratios healthy, okay, that is a perfectly symbiotic relationship, and that can work out. However, when you have an immune system breakdown, which a lot of you guys have gone through, that is when things start to get out of whack. And something as simple as Candida, for example, I'm sure a lot of you guys know what Candida is. When Candida actually gets into levels, which it has done in some of my clients, it can actually become very dangerous when it starts to affect, you know, the heart, the brain, etc. So, you know, something as simple as that, when it overgrows in the body, it can represent issues. And when your nervous system dysfunctions, that's when these toxins and these types of organisms start to get out of control. And I think Lyme disease is very similar. I personally believe that the majority of people walking around on the planet today have Borrelia, Babesia, Bartonella, and the different components of Lyme in them already. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, okay, where's your research on that? Where's your background studies on that? Well, firstly, when it comes to a lot of research, as you guys know, I'm not a massive believer in research studies. I believe where the money is, that's where you'll find the research. So I've always kind of taken some of those studies with a pinch of salt. You can pretty much pay scientists to research and find an outcome for you if you pay them enough. So we're talking about that type of landscape. Now, the interesting things that we have inside us, and I'm sure you guys, some of you have probably done parasite cleanses, etc., right? Something that is interesting though is that we've had for decades now parasites that grow, and we're talking about parasites like, I would say, kind of tapeworms, ropeworms, various type of different ascaris worms that live inside us. And there's been a few studies where scientists have actually cut these open, okay? They've actually extracted them from people and cut them open. And within them, they've actually found Bartonella, Babesia, and the various different strains that make up Lyme disease, Okay, I know this sounds really kind of Star Warsy, etc., but you will be absolutely shocked to see what lives inside you. It is like Star Wars in there sometimes. And this is another misconception that we've had in the West for many decades, is that, oh, we're in the West, we don't suffer with parasites. That's a third world thing, okay? That's something that, happens in Africa or India, etc. That things can't be further from the truth, right? America, if you put people on parasite cleanses, or you find various ways of removing these various different parasites out of them, then it's actually mind-boggling. And that's what I've been doing in the last couple of years. I work with clients who've been sending me all sorts of pictures about what's been coming out of them. And when you actually start to see this stuff, you start to visualize your health in a different way. So coming back to my point, what I'm trying to say is, I believe Lyme is in most people. I believe that it's not a problem. Most people can go through their lives with having this kind of bacteria in them. However, when their immune system goes out of whack, right, which could be triggered by a tick bite, I'm not saying that, it could be triggered by a certain medication, it could be triggered by some drug use, it could be triggered by a period of stress for a long time, right? This can cause your immune system to break down, and that's when these things come out to play. And that is, I believe, one of the biggest misconceptions around Lyme disease, is that a tick is what creates this, okay? Secondly, a lot of people talk about, where did Lyme come from? And I have my theories on this, and I have to be obviously a little bit careful on YouTube with the amount of censorship there is around these days. Specifically, since COVID, there's a ton of censorship out there. So I've got to be a little bit careful about my theories as to where it came from. But when you look at the amount of gain of function research that is happening on the planet, around retroviruses, around viruses, that's been going on for decades and decades, right? I'll let you guys fill in the blanks here as to why these things exist. Also, in terms of parasitic infections, how did parasites get into our food supply? Why is it that in the Western world we are full of parasites? Now, that's not to say that all parasites are bad, okay? We need to have parasites in our life, right? They actually provide a very important function and the right levels in our body. I mean, certain colonies of parasites actually mop up toxins. So we get a lot of heavy metal exposure, we get a lot of toxins from our water, fluoride, and just from the general environments that we live in these days. And parasites within us can soak up some of those toxins. So they do provide some benefit. However, when those balances really get out of control, when your immune system is under so much pressure that it can't deal with that, right, these things tend to get out of control, and that's what starts to cause a lot of symptoms in the body. So what kind of symptoms can you have? I mean, there's a whole list of symptoms that are associated with Lyme disease, pretty much everything from kind of headaches to epileptic seizures, to visual disturbances, blurry vision, to achy joints. You can pretty much take every disease that's out there on the planet, take the symptoms of that disease and just put it in one big list and just put Lyme disease at the top. And that's why it's so frustrating, right? For people who go down this rabbit hole, because they get confused and depending on the doctor you go see, that doctor can put you on a completely different path, right? You can present some symptomology. If you go to a neurologist, perhaps that neurologist is going to put you on a path of multiple sclerosis and introduce you to a multiple sclerosis specialist because you've got neurological difficulties. They might find something in your brain scan, and there you go. You're down the whole multiple sclerosis road, okay? Alternatively, you could go to an LLMD practitioner, and that person's going to look at some blood tests or hair sample tests, etc., and they're going to put you down the Lyme pathway. So they're going to say that you're positive for, Borrelia or one of the co-infections, etc. And then you go to other doctors who might say that it's parasite related, or it could be to do with heavy metals if you do a hair test, etc. I mean, it's really, really confusing. And I went down all of these paths for many, many months with the best doctors and experts in those fields. And I was still, at the end of it, just felt like my head was going around in circles. And it's very easy to just get swept up by a lot of this stuff. So I keep coming back to the analogy that I have, which is two paths. What we try and do is we clean the fish tank, right? We create the right environment, right, for the immune system to kind of recover, get back up to a level where it starts to put all of these infections, all of these parasites, all of these microbes back into check. Because that is the way to generate health in the body, right? We're not about just killing off all these pathogens. There are places for these type of things, but with Lyme disease, I've seen too many doctors out there who will put people on really hard antibiotics, okay? And not just the oral kind. We're talking IVs for months at a time. And knowing what antibiotics can do to the body over a long period of time, it's actually shocking that some of these treatments exist. Because you're wiping out all of the potential good microbes and your kind of friends in your stomach, and you're suppressing the immune system massively, and you're expecting somebody to recover. I don't see that as a beneficial way to treat somebody with immune dysfunction. I really don't. Okay, and when I was in the throes of illness, I did many rounds of antibiotics. I did many rounds of herbals. I did a lot of this. And as I said, I think in the right ways and the right kind of dosages and a small amount of time, I think they can be beneficial. But unfortunately, a lot of doctors out there, from what I see, they put people on long-term plans where it's all about killing the various different microbes and pathogens inside us. And in the end, that person ends up being more symptomatic and actually goes back on their healing journey rather than forwards. I've seen that happen a lot. So in terms of testing and this whole area around Lyme disease, I also think testing is not at the level that we need it to be when it comes to this type of stuff. I mean, if you go to any normal doctor and they send out for a Lyme test, a lot of those Lyme tests are going to come back negative, okay? There are certain places called Armin Labs in Germany and very specific Lyme labs that have a better way of diagnosing the Lyme bacteria. However, I keep coming back to my point, right? I think if you test 10 people, right, 9 of those people are going to probably come back having the Borrelia, Bartonella, Babesia in them. And I've seen that happen many, many, many times, okay? What we do at Tupas, we do actually work with a clinic out in Hungary, and they have a very different way of testing. It's very kind of novel, and it's actually one of the best tests for kind of Lyme disease that I've seen. And I'll show you a quick scan of a test that we had come back, and you can actually see that this is a dark field test. So this is a very microscopic look at the person's blood sample. So the way that they actually do this is I won't go into the details of it, but it's got a much higher success rate of diagnosing Lyme, and you can see, as I said, that they've been labeled here. You've got the various different microbes, everything from kind of Mycoplasma to Bartonella to Borrelia, etc. There's different tests depending on the different pathogens that you're testing for. And even with this, even when I had this test back, okay, instead of putting my client on a long-term path of antibiotics, we started to address lifestyle changes. We started to address the environment in which these pathogens were flourishing, okay? And I go into that in other videos, and we work with people and kind of personalized plans of how we delve into that. Okay, so summary, you guys are probably wondering, obviously, what is the link between this and visual snow? I'll be going into that in the next few videos, so stay tuned for that. But just to kind of, before you guys go off and start researching Lyme disease and start looking at, different ways to treat it, etc., just hold off, right? It's something that as I said, I'm trying to kind of talk to you at a surface level about. We can go into a lot of different areas. We can go into Lyme, we can go into mold, we can go into parasites, etc. But hopefully at the end of this video series that I'm doing for you guys, you're going to understand how these things kind of fit in together, and you're going to understand that we're not about killing off these pathogens, right? We need a lot of this inside us. Okay, it's not about eliminating Lyme disease from the body. It's impossible. You're not going to be able to eliminate these pathogens from the body. It's about getting your immune system back to a point where it can put all of these things in check, okay? And you can go live your life normally without having symptoms, okay? Symptoms are just a sign that a lot of these pathogens have got out of whack, and that's due to a dysregulated nervous system, okay? And what we need to do is we need to clean the fish tank. We need to rebalance the energies in the body. We need to rebalance the nervous system. And that is what will take care of all of these various different pathogens inside you, okay? So don't look at Lyme disease as the enemy. If you start looking at it as an enemy and something that is out there to kill you, right? It's one of those things that it can just start to... these things can start to come into reality, right? You can actually start to create these things in your body. If you start looking at symptoms too much, you can actually start to create these symptoms in your body. Okay, we don't want you to go down that road. Okay, what we want to do is clean the fish tank so your immune system really is able to handle everything. And it is, trust me, once you get it back to a level, right, where it's performing at an optimal level, you're not going to have to worry about any of these things, because it's your immune system that's been developing over decades and centuries, etc., and it's able to handle these things. I've got some exciting news. So we officially have our Two Paths website up and running now. It's at www.twolifepaths.com. And I urge you guys to go there and to sign up to the newsletter. So when you go there, there's going to be a subscribe now at the bottom. And the reason that I want you to subscribe to the newsletter is I have a lot of special content to share with you guys that I cannot share on social media. So if you go to the website and you subscribe, you will be officially put into our mailing list, and I'll be able to talk to you directly without any censorship, and I can share some of the secrets and some bonus content that I have been wanting to share for quite a while with you guys, and I really hope that you go and subscribe now. So guys, thanks again, and I look forward to communicating with you directly through the website, through the newsletter, and you're going to be absolutely shocked with some of the stuff that I have to share with you. Okay, guys, so stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.